Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to tell you about a ZeroTech Vengeance optic. This one happens to be the 5 to 25 by 56 in that line. Very pleased with this optic. I have a huge amount of pride of ownership with this product. It's done really well on my Savage Model 10 308 shooting 175 grain SMKs, and here I'm going to take a few shots at a little past 1,000 yards.
Pretty easy.
So I'm just going to come out the gate and tell you guys what I think right off the bat. It's fantastic. And I'm not just saying that as YouTube reviewer guy. I'm saying this is one of the highest quality optics that I personally own, and I had an extraordinary experience shooting this. I was getting really tight groups each and every time I was shooting out there. Visual quality was great and tracking was great. I'm going to talk about some of the features and my experience with the scope so far, but I just want to tell you right off the bat, if you're curious, is this going to be a positive or negative review? It's going to be an overwhelmingly positive review. I love this optic. It is so cool and it is so high quality. That's something you're going to notice about ZeroTech is everything on their optics. Man, they do have a really nice fit and finish. I'm going to start off with this ocular lens, or the reticle focus. The reticle focus itself has this dial here so you can quick focus it, and it's going to go out a pretty good range. If you have eye problems, it's going to match up for you. For me, I was able to leave it all the way to right, and it made the reticle clear for me. That's what that function does. Everything on this moves really nice and smoothly, and so I'm not concerned about it when I get to winter, including the magnification assist here. So there's a little bit of a cattail nub on there. If you can see that, that's what I'm holding on to. 5 to 25, which is a great amount of magnification for a first focal plane optic like this. That's really balanced between hunting, precision, and target practice. It's going to cover all those really well. I think the magnification range is great, and the cattail on there is very good for the different kinds of hunting you might do, where you might want lots of field of view. You might want it to just be at 5 or 10 power for a little bit, and if you're going to take a really steady shot, maybe you jump it up to 25 power, or if you're spotting hits for someone else, or you're trying to see your holes and impacts. Like I was able to see my holes at 600 yards in paper with that 25 power. When the sun was at my back especially, I could see them in there, and so it's good clear glass and 25 power. It is an appropriate amount of magnification for the glass quality for sure. It did not seem like it was overpowered for the glass quality. I think it was a good fit, and it didn't accentuate bad properties of the glass or anything like that. It was fantastic, and I like the cattail on there, the magnification assist that they add. In case you want to take it off, you could just remove it with an Allen, or you can put it on. I don't find it to run into most things like bolt knobs. If you have a big tactical bolt knob, maybe that'll run into it, but for me, it actually fit really nicely, and I plan on leaving it on there. But you could remove it if you want, and there's even a smaller dovetail assist underneath. As the competition in the optics world and optics market becomes more and more fierce, the end user gets to win out in this. There's a benefit to that, such as the parallax knobs. Parallax knobs have come a long ways, and this optic is excellent. It goes all the way down to 15 meters. The benefit of that, if you're not aware, if you're going to shoot maybe really close, parallax matters more and more as you're really close. And so if you're going to put it on an air rifle, you're good to go. You can go down to 15 meters. If you're going to shoot a squirrel really close through 22 and you want a nice sharp image, you can do it. And another thing is you could put a plumb line out, and you could even do it in your house. You wouldn't have to level your optic at the range necessarily. You could do it in your living room if you have 15 meters across. And so I love that. It's a great feature, and I actually use that pretty often. So well done on the Parallax Knob, good texture, nice and smooth, and I like the lines, the numbers that are on there for indicators functioned perfectly. When it comes to a precision rifle scope like this, the turrets obviously matter a lot, and I just want you to listen to this. They feel as good as they sound. They're extraordinary turrets, very, very good, expensive feeling even. I think these are some of the higher quality turrets I've felt, and as far as the lines go that you're looking at there, every other tenth has a rise or a fall to it, so you know which one you're on, and it lines up exactly on zero. The zero stop itself is perfect. If you're curious how to set one of these, you could watch one of my previous videos. I'm not going to go into great detail about that right now, but the turrets themselves are really, really nice. It's got a perfect texture so that I can grab it when I'm wearing gloves or if my hands are wet or sweaty, something of that nature. I find that these type of turrets have just enough resistance to function the way I like them to when I'm going out to the range or if I'm going hunting. They're not so tough that I'm going to skip past a bunch of numbers, and they're not so loose that they would get bumped and just spin. And so don't worry about that at all. Setting the zero stop is very, very smooth, and it is a mechanical zero stop, so it's going to hard stop for you, which is really nice. It's not going to go past or miss that zero number, and so I'm always confident that my zero is truly a zero. I'm not going down below what my actual zero is there. I found that when I made corrections and I checked my data, these turrets tracked true and the numbers lined up perfectly, and so I needed to see that. Everything else was going so well with the scope, I really needed to see that the tracking was, perfectly accurate, and it is, guys. Very, very nice. When I took that turret cap off the cover, looking inside there at that zero stop, which is cool. I think it's a really nice zero stop system. It's very, very high quality, and you should have no concerns about the turrets on your ZTO scopes. In fact, all of them are very high quality, especially this one. The 5-25 Vengeance comes with a 56mm objective, and that is important. It's going to do a good job of bringing as much brightness to the image as is possible and light collecting it to your eye. And I found that it did a great job, not just when it was ideal, perfect conditions, but also a couple minutes before sundown. I noticed the image still seemed pretty bright, and it did a great job. In fact, I want to talk a little bit about the image, the glass quality, edges of the glass, and the reticle itself. I'll start off with this. The dot, the aiming dot in the center of your reticle is a precision aiming dot size at 0.045. It's going to be great for group shooting, target shooting. It's not so big that it's going to obscure targets, and that's one of the benefits. I like that. It's good size, and it helped me shoot some half MOA groups at 900 yards, so I can't complain about that. Very, very nice. If you move on the lateral lines, both to the left and the right, you're going to have 10 mils for that lateral windage right there. If you're a guy who likes to dial, which I like to dial, so I use that very often. Helps me with windy days. When it's windy and I'm shooting 308 at 1,000 yards, which is pretty often, I'm going to need those lateral lines there. If you go vertically, there's also 10 mils, and there's breakups of tenths in the lateral lines as well as north or up on the vertical line there. There's a 10th mil breakup, which is useful for measuring distances, or if you need to put one part of the baseline on your impact and then one on your target and try to measure how far away you are, how many tenths off you are. It helps for making corrections. I think it's very useful, and it's a proper amount of information. That's one of the things I would compliment a ZTO on, is there's an appropriate amount of information in the reticle, and it's usable, it's functional, everything makes sense. That's one thing I just wish I could get on with more companies, is everything here makes sense to me. It's easy. It's not hard to try to figure out what the values are of the reticle. You can pretty much look at it and know what you're looking at. Moving down the reticle, now this is a part that most of us are going to use more often than not. Going down the reticle, you're going to have a 1 mil jump down to your first baseline there at 1 mil. And you'll notice something, that at 1 mil, there is an opening, and there's another precision dot there, and that's going to continue on as you go down with your holdovers. That's really nice because it doesn't again, obstruct the object you're aiming at or your target. Allows you to see through. It gives the most field of view as is possible while having a tree or Christmas tree style reticle. Very useful. Now I'm going to talk about that Christmas tree style reticle. The Christmas tree is very useful, especially if you're going to dial all of your elevation out. If you're going to run out of elevation, you need to hold over, and it's windy out, you need to use the Christmas tree, and you need the Christmas tree to make sense in the reticle. One thing I really appreciate about this one is that there are some breakups. There's something that looks a little different. And so in the windage lines there, first of all, there are numerical identifiers, so you can quickly assess which mill you're holding on. That's very important. You wouldn't want to blindly just hold over not knowing which mill you're on. And additionally, there are kind of a precision dot followed by a cross or a plus sign type symbol. And that's going to be super useful for you to kind of decide which one you're holding on. If you had too many marks there, if you had, maybe just a bunch of precision dots or a bunch of pluses, you'd forget which one you were on. But when you have a breakup the way they have it set up in this particular reticle, it's really not too hard to figure out which one you were on and remember that, and then make adjustments as you go, especially if you're going to try to dial for windage and measure things out. I like the way they've done this, and it's just enough. 10 mils is just enough for most people out there. I think the glass quality, honestly, I think the glass quality is good enough. They could have continued. Generally with glass, you want to try to keep it centered up, and you don't want to dial to the extreme edges, and you don't want people looking through the extreme edges of the glass, especially if the glass is poor quality glass or average quality glass. I would say this is definitely above average. It was a good quality glass, and I think the reticle could have extended down even lower, and it would have been usable. I think the numbers would have been clear. I don't think you would have noticed a bunch of chromatic aberration or issues or bending down there at the bottom of the glass, because when I zoomed out a little bit and looked at it at 1,000 yards when it was kind of dark out, and then I zoomed in and did the same practice there, looked around the edges, looked a little bit towards the light, a little bit away from the light, did everything I could just to assess the glass. I think the glass is very high quality. I'm impressed, and I would love to know who's making this glass for them, because if this is the future of optics, man, this is the golden era of optics. I remember looking through just blurry tubes when I was a kid, and nowadays, just the optics that are coming out, everything seems better and better, brighter and brighter, clearer and clearer, and of course these do have a multi-coated lens on them as well, which helps a lot with that process and even protects it from little smudges and dust, things that are going to happen when you're shooting. Some quick stats for you in case you missed it or you didn't look it up online just yet. It is a first focal plane. It's 5 to 25 by 56. It is a 34 millimeter tube. It does have a zero stop. Each click is a tenth. It has 28 mils of internal travel for elevation, 20 mils of windage. The parallax goes down to 15 meters and all the way up to infinity. A couple of the other important ones I think you maybe want to know about is it's about 2.4 pounds, and the reticle available for this is the RMG. It is not an illuminated reticle, which doesn't bother me at all, but all of this adds up to the fact that this is a great deal. On the market right now, I think this is the best optic at its price point, and it is extremely competitive right now, guys. I'm telling you, we are living in the golden era of optics, and I'm just noticing that companies are becoming so competitive. They're adding so much more into their optics, and they're really listening to the end user, and they're hitting it right. One warning I'll give you is if you buy one of these, it may have the side effect of making you a little bit overconfident. It's that good, guys.
It's just so easy.